Okay, so yeah, so what you need to do, I think what we all need to do is right now begin to take this as the new reality. Um, okay, so the assumptions before you can get your business ready, you got to get the right mindset. The right mindset means this is going to be with us for longer than you think, despite what the president says, despite what we'd love to believe. The experts say we are in a pandemic, which means it's going to get a lot worse and it's going to last a lot longer. So you may very well become sick. Someone in your family likely will become sick. People in your work will become sick. Um, Business is slowing down for everyone. So because it's not gonna be the quick blip. It's not gonna be the just something that's here and gone, and we can all get back to normal. It's gonna be with us for long enough. Let's just project 6 months. If it's with us for 6 months, we're going to have to find new patterns to work. We're going to have to find new ways to meet, which don't involve us being face to face with one another. And once we get into that habit, and it's 6 months or so in the creation of that, even if this goes much faster than we expect, at that point, we will have new ways of working. It'll involve less travel. It will involve less conferences. Those won't die completely, but we'll have new preferred ways of dealing with work. Um, Now, so what does that mean? Can't we all just go home and work from home and hopefully this will blow over? Yeah, but your business, whatever business you're in, it's dependent upon connections between people, continued connections, communication, and information flow, both internally, right? The people you need to connect with on your teams so that you're providing value to other people in the organization. So eventually we're providing value to our outside customer. But there's also external suppliers, people that get you what you need to do your work, and possibly you're on the external customer interface. So you've got to keep those connections, but that's where the kicker is. The kicker is that these connections and this information flow are threatened by social distancing, which I think, unfortunately, for one who loves connecting with people, loves the human interaction, I think that's really how the best interaction gets done. And actually, I need to create a new question because the longer I'm with this, the more questions and things we must need to address pop up. How do we build trust without face to face? So yeah, so we're dealing with this new normal. Um, so we need to keep up the connections. That's what's being threatened by the coronavirus, at least from a business perspective. It's all the people we need to touch and the things that need to go, sometimes literally hand to hand, that for us to stay healthy, we're going to cut off. Um, Now, people will eventually figure it out on their own. I mean, we'll just kind of stumble our way into new ways of work, and with some losses, some sickness that maybe we could have avoided, some business maybe we could have done better if we'd have thought about it in a more structured way. So they're going to figure it out. Let me see if I can get this just so you can see the rest of the flip chart. But you're likely to be more successful if you think about it beforehand. So that's the simple premise that we're talking about. So there you go. That's the assumptions. So what do you do about it? You need to get your people in your organization together, and they need to start thinking and defining, first of all, who their key contacts are. Who are the people in the organization that are suppliers to them that they need to there's stuff that this other person has that you must have to do your work. So who are those folks? Who are your key customers internally? Who are people who are not necessarily a supplier or customer, but they're a collaborator? You work with them to provide value to an internal customer. And you need to look at it in both frames, internal and external. And each person in the organization should be having this. This doesn't, if you focus on key contacts, I mean, I bump into a lot of folks day to day when I used to work internally in companies, a lot of folks you bump into. But there are a couple of folks you really depend upon, and there are a couple of folks who really depend upon you. I'm talking about those people. So the answer, when you're done with this, you have a list of who your key contacts are. Next question, somewhat related. How have you typically, for each of those people you listed, how do you typically connect? How do you typically exchange information? Is that phone, email, combination of that? Hey, we're going through all the day, we're on Slack, meetings. See, this is all the kind of stuff that's we're going to have to reimagine. So how have you connected, and what is essentially being shared? I share reports, I share data, I share updates, or we problem solve together, or we make decisions together. So there's a variety of things that happen. Each person in the organization doing this for each connection. Now, can you do this in a team format? Like, hey, everybody, if your managers or your supervisors kind of understand this. Oh, and by the way, I'm assuming. So when I say each person in the organization, I guess I'm assuming a white collar environment. But let's say you have a manufacturing organization. No, you would not pull every person off the floor. You're going to do whatever hygiene and stuff you need to do to protect those people so that they can keep doing their work. But then when we step out and we think about the management and support systems that keep that operation going, these are the folks that need to be thinking about and having these discussions. You can do it. A team could get together and they could think, hey guys, let's talk in engineering here and let's answer these questions. Each person should do it, but it can all be facilitated at once. And it shouldn't take actually a whole lot of time. It's probably half an hour, 45 minutes maybe, to have this discussion well with people. Okay, so you're asking those questions. And this is where I've gotten to at this point. So you still got those. You're going to put that on pause. Now you got to get to let's imagine and describe. And I think this is best done. I think organizational leaders, there should be this conversation in boardrooms and executive teams. But I think this conversation should also be held at the various department or team levels throughout the organization and not as an individual. This really is much better. Hey, let's get together as a group, get an internal facilitator to kind of guide and ask these questions so that people are working. Imagine and describe the new world of work in its most protective form. Okay, this is where you got to go. Okay, if this is really as bad as people say it is, if it can be, if it's super easy to contract, which that's what all the information is telling us. But if everybody believed that, then what does the world of work look like? Do you even have an office that people come to? Is this something where everybody on your team is going to be working from their own computer? What does that look like? And I think you need to practically imagine it most protective, right? Uh, the state government has said you're not allowed out of your home, or only essential activities are going to be allowed. That's at least how we need to be thinking about it right now. And in that world, how is work getting done? Which of those connections, and this is where we go back to what you've defined. In some sense, just about every one of your interactions is probably going to be impacted, but some more than others. So which of those connections is impacted and how? How are you now in that world finding ways to get what you need and get others what they need in that value chain that we just defined? How are you working differently? Now, I don't have a flip chart to describe the second, the next step of this. First of all, do all this. You're now starting to see, oh my gosh, this is how we're working. The next step, of course, is all right now. So, what do we need to put into place to support that kind of work? I'm thinking technology, cameras, right? Zoom, YouTube, however, however we get that communication flow going. Um, People need to know if I'm on a team, how are we going to meet? What does it mean to lead an online meeting? And how do we get people properly engaged in that setting? So that's what I have right now. Um, the inaugural first stream that I've done, but I think it's important. And somehow I'm going to find a way to get this information out too. I'm going to also add to this because there are the next steps. Once you know, or at least can envision what you're dealing with and who's impacted, then you got to say, all right, so what's the new way of working? Thanks. Oh, where'd that go? There we